Joining us now to talk more on this is Ms. Lisa Gue, the National Policy Manager at the David Suzuki Foundation. Ma'am, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Nice to be here again. Thank you.
So let's start with the Cop26 summit, ma'am. What is expected to be discussed at this meeting?
Cop26 is the international gathering of global leaders to discuss their moving forward with their commitments to tackle climate change. It is the 26th time the globe has gathered. And the latest science is increasingly even more compelling about the dire state of climate change. It's literally, the scientists working on these assessments are calling it a code red for humanity. We're running out of time to turn things around. So it's critical that our global leaders get it right this time.
And what do we know so far about Canada's current initiatives to tackle climate change and cut emissions?
Well, unfortunately, Canada's emissions continue to increase when they should be declining. Now, a glimmer of hope, their emissions are increasing less quickly than they used to. And the government has announced a number of new initiatives that could really be critical to turn things around, but only if they're implemented in short order.
And at the same time, we know Canada has been criticized for making promises around climate change and not following through. So have we ever hit any of our climate targets before, Ms. Gue?
Unfortunately, we don't have a great track record. Many people will remember the Kyoto Protocol that was ratified by Canada in 2002. And under that international agreement, Canada was supposed to decrease its greenhouse gas emissions by 6% from 1990 levels by 2012. And instead, our national emissions rose by 30% during that period. And ultimately, Canada withdrew from the Kyoto Protocol under the former government. And it hasn't, recent efforts also, again, have not been successful in actually bending this curve. However, there are some new measures that have been put in place that are starting to show results. Top among them is a newer national price on carbon. That is certainly a heavy hitter when it comes to reducing carbon emissions. During the recent election campaign, the Liberal Party, which of course formed government ultimately, also made some important promises that, if implemented quickly and in a strong fashion, could also be game changers. One of the important ones is a pledge to cap and ratchet down emissions from the oil and gas sector. This is Canada's largest and still growing source of emissions. And the government has also promised new regulatory measures to accelerate the shift to zero emission vehicles. Transportation accounts for nearly a quarter of our emissions. And the government has said that its new target is that all vehicles in Canada be zero emission vehicles by 2035. Currently, at latest count, they weren't even 4%. So we've got a ways to go, and it will require some mandatory measures, new policies, new targets, new policies, new regulations, and an investment to make these changes possible.
Some very bold initiatives there, ma'am. Another thing to consider is a previous meeting of G20 environment ministers actually arrived at an impasse around setting temperature limits and phasing out coal. So what can be expected of climate talks during the G20 meeting this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, interesting timing. The G20 countries are gathering just before many of those same leaders will be moving over to Cop26. And G20 is primarily an economic forum, but they are expected the Italian hosts have put the planet, including climate change, on the agenda. So hopefully there will be some opportunity for the leaders to have some preliminary discussions and come to COP with strong commitments and action beyond the talk. You referenced previous failures to come to agreement around the coal phase out. We not only need to move beyond coal, we need to start talking about, we need to start acting, implementing a managed decline of fossil fuel production altogether. And one really interesting initiative that we've got our eyes on at COP is that a new alliance that has been that has been initiated by Denmark and Costa Rica called the Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance. And those two countries are challenging other countries, including petroleum producing countries, to commit to a managed and just decline of fossil fuel production, because that's what the science says is necessary in order to meet the climate targets that our leaders have accepted and that the science says is necessary.